truly never thought I would ever be able to say this again, but retro RPG fans have had a lot to be excited about lately. Thanks to the success of games like Octopath Traveler, Live Alive, and Tactics Ogre Reborn, there's more new life being breathed into the genre than there has been in decades. Another reason to be optimistic about the future of retro-style RPGs is Chained Echoes, a total throwback to the 16-bit games we grew up with. Chained Echoes was the masterwork of Matthias Linde, an independent German developer who spent 7 years creating it. Now that's a long time. He's been on the record saying the game was inspired by some of his own favorite games like Xenogears, Terranigma, Secret of Mana, and Suikoden 2, so you already know he'd get along just fine with me. His work on Chained Echoes inspired a successful Kickstarter campaign in 2019, and the title was finally released in December of 2022. So yeah, right now it's available on Steam, Nintendo Switch, PlayStation 4, and Xbox One. And I just have to tell you, if you're a fan of classic RPGs like me, any 30-second segment of this game's footage will get your attention. In fact, it may even give you shivers or goosebumps. So even though I play virtually no modern games, this one is different. I had to play it. Chained Echoes takes place on the continent of Volandis, which consists of 3 kingdoms. A long and destructive war has devastated the continent over the course of 6 generations, but some are optimistic about the prospect of a peace agreement to end all the strife for good. Now I know what you're thinking, Suikoden 2 vibes, right? At least that's the first thing I thought of, and I like where this is going. You play as Glenn, a skilled mercenary and pilot of mechs called Sky Armor, who's thrust right into the center of the conflict. He agrees to take on a mission to infiltrate the kingdom of Fonset on behalf of the kingdom of Gravos. Their goal is to destroy the Opus Stone, a mystical gem that fuels powerful ether cannons. Gravos believes it to be a suicide mission, so it offers a hefty sum of money to the Band of the Iron Bull, which Glenn belongs to. In the Sky Armor, Glenn and Killian dispatch the Terran Defense Forces and fight their way toward the stone on the ground. Just as they approach it though, they're stopped by a mysterious character called Wywyan. He insists that the Opus Stone doesn't fuel anything, and the crew was tricked into destroying it. Glenn hesitates but slashes it to pieces anyway. It emits light, then unleashes a huge explosion killing tens of thousands of people. The source of the blast was disputed, but the catastrophic event convinces all parties to sign the peace treaty in an attempt to avert future conflict. The game takes off from there, as everyone plans to celebrate the occasion a year after the treaty's signing. After seeing this intro, I have to say that I love the setup for the game's story. It really makes you think about what could be ahead. The narrative evolves into a tale filled with all sorts of unexpected twists and turns, and it really seems to be influenced by the RPGs that did that so well in the past. When it comes to gameplay, those who played the famed 16-bit RPGs will totally know what to expect from this one. It's a fully turn-based affair where you can have a maximum of 4 characters in your party at any one time. For combat, each character can use a basic attack, use skills, use items, or defend. Pretty standard stuff here as well. When it comes to the title's key mechanics, skills are probably the most important. There are action skills, passive skills, and stat boosters. Because both your hit points and tactical points, the latter of which is expended when using skills, are fully replenished after every fight, skills provide the most important method of aiding allies and dealing damage. New skills are acquired by using Grimoire shards, which you can find throughout your journey. Each one unlocks an additional skill in the Learn Skills menu. Once you unlock a skill, you have it permanently. The oddest part of Chained Echoes is probably the fact that you don't gain experience points like you would in a standard retro RPG. Instead, your stats are raised at predetermined points of the game. However, you do gain SP, or skill points, by defeating enemies, and SP can be expended to upgrade skills. Now this advancement system was something of a bold and unexpected choice, and honestly, I can see multiple sides to it. I guess this takes away the frustration of grinding and removes the ability to cheese the game's intended difficulty to some extent. On the flip side, it also takes away the ability for players to gain strength through traditional levels, a facet most RPG players love. Anyway, skills are arranged in tiers, and obtaining skills in the higher tiers require you to unlock a prerequisite number of skills in previous tiers. I think the way that the passive skills and stat boosters function is fantastic, and I wouldn't change it at all because this system really gives you a lot of control and customization in the direction you want for each character. When it comes to the active skills, I'm pleased with the fact that there's a lot of skill choices and diversity for each character, but I really did end up using the same skills and using my upgrades on those skills throughout the game. So yeah, a lot of cross-slashing with Glenn went down. Another noteworthy innovation of Chained Echoes is the overdrive meter, which functions kind of like limit breaks do in the Final Fantasy games. However, this is shared by all characters, and nearly every action you take builds your overdrive level. When the gauge gets to green, your party will be in overdrive mode, where all their attacks receive a damage bonus, and all skills cost half their normal TP. If you push the overdrive meter into the red, however, the party goes into an overheat mode, making them weaker. The overall goal here is to balance your actions such that you stay in green, so you can't be too timid or overzealous with your attacks. The last thing I wanted to say about the battles themselves is that I was really impressed with the clean, easy-to-use menu interface. I especially love the character turn order displayed in the upper right. This helped me plan my attacks against enemies and know when I needed to heal. The menus aren't too complicated, and it's just a really polished experience in general. Combat animations are fantastic, and playable characters and enemies have visual responses to battle events. Most of the bosses look really beastly too, and the sprite designs for them were great. Some bosses remind me of the ones from Chrono Trigger because several bosses have different attack targets, such as this giant octopus dude, and must be overcome by approaching the battles the correct way. Thankfully, there's also a lot of attack skills that hit targets in a line or in a general area. But seriously, this game has Chrono Trigger written all over it. I mean, you begin the game waking up in a room that is utterly indistinguishable from Chrono's, and I have to think this was an intentional tribute. The only difference is, your mom belts you in the face instead of encouraging you to go to the Millennial Fair. There's also an area in the game that looks just like the Blackbird, so it's pretty clear the developer was a Chrono fanatic like many of us. And I really love the characters too. There are 14 total that are recruitable, and each fill different archetypes and gain unique abilities. One of my favorites was Bothraz, a frog-looking mercenary mage who can summon magical weapons and specializes in light and dark magic. I also enjoyed his snarky personality and his propensity to speak of himself in the plural as us. Of course, Glenn is a total beast with his sword attacks as well. The soundtrack uses a lot of orchestral style songs that fit into the fantasy environment. The main theme is absolutely fantastic, and the prologue theme songs were really solid too. It definitely fits the game well, but I can't say I was totally blown away by it. In some spots it reminds me a bit of Octopath Traveler, so that alone is a pretty impressive feat for a small developer like this to achieve. I also noticed that the character dialogue was very well written, which is really important for a game like this. We certainly don't need any of those Breath of Fire 2 localization nightmares creeping into the genre now, that's for sure. Just as in Final Fantasy VI, there's a key moment in the story where the characters are split apart, and you get to follow all three of them in any order you choose. This was yet another throwback concept I really enjoyed. I do think the game has a few flaws though, especially the level cap. In my mind, this was an unnecessary drawback that doesn't really serve a big purpose, even if the game was designed with it in mind. I also dislike the fact that the characters are locked into having only a set number of skills, because it means you really have to make some hard choices. Both of these things, which were probably intended to make sure the game retains its challenge throughout, could have been done away with in my mind. I've also been told by other people that early versions of the game are buggy, and to make sure to upgrade your game to the latest version, but I can't really attest to this because I'm playing the latest one. Just something to be aware of, and please feel free to leave a comment below if you know more about this issue. The Chained Echoes Kickstarter campaign allowed you to buy all sorts of different versions of the game, including normal and collector's editions, but these are mostly all sold out at this point. The best way to pick up the title now is on Steam, where it goes for the very reasonable price of $24.99. At this point, I feel pretty comfortable saying there aren't many retro RPG purchases on the platform I can recommend more than this one, so give it a try. When all is said and done, Chained Echoes is a total hodgepodge of old school RPG greatness, and borrows some of the best and most memorable elements from the days of yore. Its sky armor mechs, well, those are pretty darn reminiscent of Xenogears. At the same time, Chrono Trigger seems to have really influenced the game's enemy encounter system, visual style, and elements of the combat. The story of Chained Echoes seems to draw serious inspiration from Suikoden 2 and Final Fantasy VI, and the skill system is even a bit similar to Star Ocean's. Replenishing hit points and tactical points after combat acts just like it does in the Saga games, and the overdrive meter functions a little like limit breaks do in some of the Final Fantasy games. It's like an all-star lineup of old school RPGs all combined together into the same amazing game. Chained Echoes is a true love letter to the best RPGs of all time, but after playing it for a few hours, one can easily see how it's an awesome experience in its own right as well. I highly recommend picking this up for the 25 plus hours of guaranteed retro RPG nostalgia. About the only thing missing from it I can think of is a New Game Plus feature, but maybe that will come in a future update. So what did you think about Chained Echoes? Which RPGs from the past do you think it's most like? And if you haven't played it yet, let me know if it seems as great as I thought it was in a comment below. Please like, subscribe, and click the bell for more retro gaming content, and please consider supporting my channel via YouTube's Join feature to receive member bonuses such as advanced videos and complete video transcripts.